Well, I have had a lot of conversation about Nnamdi Kanu's situation, including revealing to the Nigerian people that his trial was pre-planned. Everything that eventually played out on the day of...
Breaking news, folks. Omoyele Sowore has just made a stunning revelation that has sent shockwaves across Nigeria. Sowore, the renowned activist and founder of Sahara Reporters, has revealed something extremely shocking about the Biafra movement and the fate of Nnamdi Kanu, Ali Kalekwadrit, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. This is a must listen. According to Sowore, he was directly approached with a personal proposition that would have seen Nnamdi Kanu completely abandon his pursuit of Biafra's freedom. And you won't believe this. In exchange for abandoning his mission, he was promised his freedom. Yes, you heard that right. Kanu was offered freedom, not through fighting for Biafra's independence, but by forming a political party. This shocking offer exposes the true intentions behind what many had thought were political solutions being promoted by some Southeast politicians. Sowore made it clear these politicians were not concerned with Kanu's actual freedom. No, their goal was to co-opt him, to neutralize him as a political force. They didn't want the real, authentic Kanu leading a movement they couldn't control. What they wanted was a compromised Kanu, someone they could manage, someone who would play by their rules. The idea was to turn him into a figurehead that would no longer be a threat to their own political relevance. Now, let me break it down further for you. What Sowore is claiming is that the people who were pretending to support Nnamdi Kanu were actually more concerned about keeping their power than they were about freeing him. To them, Kanu's ability to mobilize Chippo Talisites, the masses, his charisma and his genuine authenticity were a threat. They feared that if he remained Ibada free, he could surpass them and overshadow them. So they wanted him negotiated and controlled and ultimately silenced as the powerful symbol of resistance that he was. This is big, the cynical political game that Sowore talks about. It's something we've seen over and over again in political movements across the world. It's what we call a controlled opposition. It's when the powers that be allow a figure to rise, but only if that figure doesn't pose a real threat to the status quo. And this is exactly what was being plotted against Nnamdi Kanu. His own people in his region, were more interested in diluting his message so they could keep the power to themselves. Think about it. Nnamdi Kanu was never meant to be the kind of leader who could be easily controlled. The message he brought was too powerful, too raw, and too revolutionary for the likes of these political figures who only care about maintaining their positions in power. Instead of wanting him to lead the charge for Biafra's freedom, they wanted him to step aside from the revolution and join their political games. They wanted him to stop fighting for the people's cause and instead fight for their selfish interests. This is what they didn't want you to know. This offer that Sowore describes is heartbreaking for many who believe that the political solution to Nnamdi Kanu's imprisonment and Biafra's agitation was about his freedom. But now we see that it was never really about that. It was always about control. These politicians saw Kanu not as a man of principle, but as someone they could turn into a cheap puppet to legitimize their own political positions. They wanted him to be a negotiated figure, but not a fee-free one. And let's talk about the political calculations at play here. It's clear that these politicians were not interested in any kind of true liberation. They were terrified of Nnamdi Kanu because he represented something that was beyond their ability to control. He was the voice of the oppressed, the man who had captured the hearts of millions. His authenticity was something that made him a really dangerous threat to the political establishment that many of these leaders had built over the years. It's painful to think about, but it's the harsh truth. Nnamdi Kanu was not just fighting against the Nigerian government, he was also fighting against his own people, who were more interested in using him for their own political gain. And now, thanks to Sowore's bombshell, we know that the political elites in the Southeast, the very people who should have been pushing for Kanu's full liberation, were actually trying to negotiate his struggle. They didn't want him to be the free man leading the people. They wanted him controlled and autocratic, reduced to someone who could just be managed. This brings up a critical point. Who exactly are the real opponents of a revolutionary leader like Nnamdi Kanu? It's not just the state. Sometimes the most dangerous opposition comes from within. From those who, rather than fighting for freedom, seek to harness the power of a movement to protect their own interests. The biggest obstacle to a revolutionary leader is not always the government. Sometimes it's the opportunist who wants to redirect the revolution for their own political purposes. Now, I want to pause here and ask you all to think about something. Does this situation remind you of any other struggles, any other leaders who have been co-opted for political purposes? It's a pattern we've seen before in history, not just in Nigeria, but globally. Leaders who rise with the hopes of their people, only to find out that at the very system they seek to challenge will try to incorporate them, dilute their message, and neutralize their impact. If you're following along and enjoying this deep dive, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll be diving into more of these juicy revelations and breaking news stories. Let's keep it real and keep you informed. Now, let's take this even further. When you think about the Biafra issue, but you have to ask yourself, what's at the heart of the struggle? For many, it's not just about one man's freedom. It's about years of inequality, ties, marginalization, and a deep-seated feeling that the Southeast, the Igbo people, have never been as truly represented in the corridors of power. It's about an identity, a heritage, and a rare demand for justice. And this is where the political manipulation comes into play. These elites don't care about the root issues that have been driving the Biafran agitation. They care about their own position and how they can maintain control, how they can maintain over the region's future. The idea of a true revolution doesn't suit them because it threatens their hold on power. So the truth is, some of these so-called leaders who claim to be fighting for Nnamdi Kanu and the faked Biafran cause have been complicit in silencing the very revolution they once claimed to support. They want the movement to become something manageable, something they can control. And that's the stark reality of what Nnamdi Kanu has been up against. It's not just the state, it's also those who claim to be his allies, but only want him to play by their own rules. But let's not get discouraged. Every time the truth comes out, the people get stronger. So what Revelation has shown us, the depths of the political games are being played, and the more we know, the more we can push for true freedom. So again, if you're feeling this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe too. We're just getting started. There's more to this story, and we'll continue to follow it closely for you.